Hey everyone, today I'm going to talk about bee bread, what it is, and a few ways that you can consume it. If you're here just for the recipes, I've made a free downloadable pamphlet with all the recipes and instructions, which you can get by clicking the link in the description, or check the timeline and skip to that section of the video. So when I first heard of bee bread, I was thinking it was a loaf of bread with maybe honey in it or had a bee design on it. But when I found out what it actually was, I was pretty astounded. Bee bread is basically fermented bee pollen. Bee bread is made when adult female bees go out and collect pollen and mix it with nectar and honey and a little of their own saliva, and then carry it back to the hive and put it into the honeycomb cells for food, a food source for the baby bees and also for the rest of the hive. Bee bread is incredibly nutritional. It has tons of minerals and vitamins. It's high in iron and protein, so it's really a superfood that isn't routinely found in the supermarket aisles. So a few benefits of bee bread are that, again, they're high in minerals and vitamins, they're high in proteins, healthy omega fatty acids, and essential amino acids. It's a natural source for vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin E, and vitamin K. So a whole host of benefits there, from boosting your body's immunity to helping with health of your body at a cellular level, helping with energy levels, and tons more. Bee bread is a powerful antioxidant. Antioxidants are important because they help to fight against cellular damage in your body. And so what that means is that antioxidants are helpful in refreshing your skin, reducing inflammation, fighting infection. So antioxidants are super critical to our body's health. Bee bread is a natural immune support, as are most bee products, actually, like honey and bee pollen. Bee bread contains antimicrobial properties, which are useful in staving off colds and flus. Oftentimes you'll see recipes online if you're looking for natural cold and flu remedies that include raw honey, and that's because bee products in general provide a lot of immune supporting benefits to our bodies, especially when you buy honey that's unpasteurized and is local. Bee bread has been shown to even reduce the symptoms of menopause, so hot flashes and difficulty sleeping. There have been multiple studies shown that taking a bit of bee bread, consuming a bit of bee bread, has been successful in reducing some of those symptoms. Bee bread has also been shown to reduce stress and feelings of tiredness. I've also read that bee bread is high in selenium, which is something I've spoken about before, but selenium is helpful in boosting your mood, and I've certainly found that to be true. I eat Brazil nuts, which are full of selenium, especially during the winter when it's darker, and have found that to be helpful in improving my mood. And I've read that bee bread is also high in selenium, so now that I have some bee bread on hand, I'm gonna be trying that as well. It's a really amazing food medicine. So it's a great natural replacement for maybe you're taking a synthetic vitamin to get vitamin A or vitamin K. Oftentimes there are naturally occurring super healthy alternatives to some of the synthetic products that we see in our supermarkets. As I keep learning about how to nourish my body and my family's body, I'm just pretty astounded at how narrow the aisles of our supermarkets are. If I go into our supermarket and I look for something to give my family some vitamin C, the options are usually oranges from Spain. I mean, oranges are difficult to grow here in the UK, of course. Or I've seen lemons that come from South Africa. So these products have traveled very far and they're non-organic. Even the amount of vitamin C in those fruits aren't necessarily huge. Whereas if I just leave the supermarket doors and walk like 5 feet, I will see nettles growing wild in a little green space that's right outside the supermarket. Nettles are packed with vitamin C, and they're growing freely just outside the supermarket. If I walk a little bit further down a path and keep my eyes open, I'll probably see an elder tree with elderberries if I hit it at the right time of year. And elderberries are also packed with vitamin C. And I find it crazy that those natural things that grow so local and are so simple to source and are growing wild and free in our local environment, in our local green spaces, are just nowhere to be seen on the supermarket shelves. The vast majority of people go into the supermarket and buy all of their food from there, and they're being given a tiny portion of the options that are available to them. Oftentimes more nourishing options, less expensive options, and options that are sourced locally. A question that I think people might have, and that I had, is what does bee bread taste like? And I've read online actually that some people have compared it to the flavor of that US candy Skittles, and I think it's quite accurate actually. But it has a light, floury flavor, and the texture is a little bit grainy, but nothing unpleasant. I would compare it very easily to any sort of dried fruit, like dried apricot, in that sort of flavor and texture family. So now I want to share 4 ways that you can consume bee bread. Like other food medicines, you don't have to make anything special to eat it. You can just add it into anything that you're already making. But I've come up with a few recipes that make it simple to add bee bread into some snacks or breakfast ideas that you might want to give a try. I've put all of the recipes that I will go through in a free downloadable pamphlet that I've linked in the description. These recipes are ones that I haven't put on documentingsimpleliving.com quite yet. I wanted to give you some way to refer back to them, so I put them in a free downloadable pamphlet that you can download in the description. The first recipe idea is raw bee bread breakfast bars. So there's a lot of bees in there. Try to say that 5 times fast. Basically, what you do is combine a little bit of bee bread, oats, nuts of your choice, peanut butter, dates, and either honey or maple syrup. You can of course use honey to add more of the nutritional benefits of bee products into these breakfast bars, but sometimes the taste of honey becomes overpowering, so I like to swap it out for maple syrup once in a while. Both work in this recipe. Basically, you combine everything together in a food processor, except the bee bread. And then use your hands to push the mixture flat in a baking dish, and then sprinkle the bee bread over top and use your hands to push it into the mixture. And then use a knife to score it. So you pre-cut the breakfast bars and then put it into your freezer for about an hour, and then just pull it out and break them apart. And there you have your breakfast bars with bee bread. These will store best in the fridge because if they sit on the counter, they get kind of soft and can break apart. So I just like to store them in a Ziploc bag in the fridge. But super delicious to pull out at breakfast or as a snack with a coffee or a tea. The next idea is homemade bee bread granola. So I've made granolas on this channel before. They're super simple and much more cost effective than buying healthy granolas in the supermarket. For this recipe, I'm using the same basic recipe, so throwing in a bunch of oats and coconut oil, maple syrup, any nuts of your choice. And I like to add a little bit of sourdough discard into it because it adds a bit of crunch, but that's totally optional. Mixing it all together and putting it on baking trays and into the oven for about an hour. Whenever it's golden brown on all sides, you can use a wooden spoon to move it around once it's in the oven for a bit. Move it around so it's golden brown on all sides and then pull it out, let it cool completely, and then sprinkle the bee bread on top of that and then mix it all together with a wooden spoon and store it in a glass jar on your countertop. The reason you don't want to add bee bread into hot applications, like the reason you wouldn't want to put bee bread into your granola before it goes into the oven, is because it's a fermented food, and if it gets above a certain temperature, then the benefits of that fermentation will be killed, because fermented foods are a living food. They have living bacteria in them, which is what benefits your body when you eat fermented foods. That bacteria is helpful in supporting your gut health and your overall body immunity and even supporting your mood. So you don't want to kill that bacteria by putting it into a very hot oven. So you add the bee bread after the granola is cool and mix it all together, and then you have a delicious homemade healthy granola with bee bread. Another idea is bee bread date balls. So I have made a variation of these date balls a while back when I was preparing to go into labor with our latest baby. I made a chocolate coconut date ball because it was really high in iron and protein, just a good snack to have on hand when I was in labor. But I've made a variation where you can add bee bread. These are super nice as snacks. You just store them in the fridge again and you can pull them out with a coffee or for breakfast, or as like a snack before you work out or after you work out. So the ingredients are dates, medjool dates ideally, because they're really soft and squishy and they have a higher liquid content, so they help to hold the ball together. Nuts of your choice, peanut butter, and bee bread. To make these, you would just blitz the dates and nuts and peanut butter together in a food processor. And then once everything is combined, pull it out and put it into a bowl, sprinkle the bee bread over top, and then use a spoon to combine that into the mixture. And then you can use your hands to create the balls, put them into the fridge or the freezer to make it faster, and let them get really firm, and that's all you have to do. You can also, of course, just have them as toppings. I like to add bee bread to my yogurt in the morning or my oats. You can add them to salads, which would be an interesting flavor because they're a bit sweet, so you could try that out and see if you like the combination of those flavors. And you can add them to like trail mixes, so if you combine raisins and nuts and bee bread and maybe some dark chocolate chips all together, that would be a really nutritious and delicious snack as well. So that is a quick summary of what bee bread is, some of its benefits, and also a few ways you could try to consume bee bread. If you're interested in bee bread at all, make sure to download that free pamphlet in the description so you can have all those recipes with the full ingredients and instructions on how to make them. And let me know in the comments if you've tried bee bread, if you like the flavor, how you've consumed it. So I hope that you enjoy trying it, and thank you so much for stopping by, and I will speak to you in the next Documenting Simple Living video.